State Governor's Office for Hispanic Affairs and the New York City Board of Education's WNYE TV and radio station proudly presents Las Primeras, the Firsts, another in a series of educational documentaries about prominent New York Hispanic figures.
Meet the women who are marching to the tune of change and who represent the new can-do generation. Words like self-esteem, pride, dedication, hard work, and sound ethics clearly describe the character and personalities of the women whose stories you are about to see.
On October 7th, 1902, Isabela Gonzalez, a Puerto Rican woman, successfully challenged the United States government in the Supreme Court on the question of civil rights for the people of Puerto Rico. The case, Gonzalez versus Williams, proved that Puerto Ricans are not aliens nor foreigners, but people living under the protection of the United States government whose allegiance were and continue to be to this country. On October 2nd, 1992, almost a century after that landmark civil rights decision, the first Puerto Rican woman to serve on the federal bench took an oath of office. She is Justice Sonia Sotomayor of the First Southern District of New York.
If I were to think of anything, however, it is, or it was, that sense of people caring about me and the sense that, from my family, that education was the most important thing in my life, that I had to study. And so that's what ultimately helped me achieve where I am now.
Raised in the public housing projects of the Bronx, Judge Sonia Sotomayor has demonstrated that your future is based on what you do with your life rather than where you grow up.
I know, because I see it still today, how difficult living in the project housings can be. The drug problem is prevalent through our society. There's enormous violence in many of the housing locations. Yet what I remember the most was the sense of family. No matter what the crime was around us, there were still groups of people que eran familia. And they're still there in my life and that of my family. We still visit each other despite the fact that we've all moved out of the projects into various parts of the city and the country. It is that sense of familia combined with education that got, I don't want to say me out of the projects, but that permitted me to pursue a profession that the rest of my family had never had an opportunity to do.
She earned her bachelor's degree from Princeton University and graduated summa cum laude. She received a Juris Doctor from Yale Law School, where she was also the editor of the Yale Law Journal.
I encourage young people always to realize that yes, you can spend time partying, just make some time to study too, and work at both equally as hard. I have always enjoyed everything I've done, and I continue enjoying everything I do. It's important to have that balance, and I would hope that all students would recognize that it's not wrong to enjoy yourselves, it's only wrong to forget about the other things.
Have we got a judge for you, emphasized United States Senator Patrick Moynihan's staff when they recommended Sonia Sotomayor as the first Puerto Rican woman to become a federal judge. Sonia Sotomayor's success and dedication to the law and its constitutional interpretation should help motivate young people today to take a quantum leap into the legal profession.
In 1992, Nydia Velasquez made history when she became the first Puerto Rican woman ever to be elected to the Congress of the United States of America.
I came from a very poor background. My father was a sugarcane cutter. We were 9 children. Who will tell me 20 years back living in the rural part of Puerto Rico, that one day I could become the first Puerto Rican woman ever to serve in the United States Congress.
As a national legislator, the issues that she confronts are as important and diverse as America itself. From the power to declare war to the authority of approving the nation's budget, Congresswoman Velasquez has awesome responsibilities.
Imagine that with my vote, I have the power to pass the budget of the richest country in the world. That we will discuss and debate so many issues that are so important for the Puerto Rican Latino community, for the young kids in our district, in my community. So it could go from declaring war and voting against it, or approving that, dealing with budget, and dealing with so many issues. Healthcare, crime, economic empowerment, promoting development, economic development in our district. I am a member of the banking committee. I will be the one drafting legislation that will regulate the lending community in this country. So it's power, it's political leverage. It's very important that in that regard, we have someone there that will be able to address the issues, but more important, that will tell the President of the United States, we are here. We are here and we are growing in numbers. There are certain unique needs that must be addressed, and you need my vote to pass whatever legislation he's proposing. Because I think that that is political empowerment, and that's political power for my community.
The daughter of a sugarcane worker, Nydia earned her master's degree in political science at the University of Puerto Rico. Later served on the faculty of her alma mater and at the New York's Hunter College. In 1984, she became the first Puerto Rican woman appointed to the City Council. Later, in 1986, the governor of Puerto Rico appointed Velasquez to a cabinet-level position as Secretary of the Department of Puerto Rican Affairs. Her attention is now focused on political empowerment for the Puerto Rican Americans. She organized Atrévete, a most successful national voter registration campaign for Latinos in America.
We could be 22 million Latinos in this country, but if we don't vote, if we cannot flex our political muscle, we do not exist. We will be the invisible force in this city or in this nation. So it's not only about trying to get people registered to vote, but to educate them as to the importance of electoral politics and the conditions that they are in. It could go from housing quality and access to quality housing, access to quality health care, education for our children, recreational facilities. That's what it means when we go out there and we make our presence felt by voting. So it encompasses more than voter registration. It's political education, and then get those people, get them out to vote. That's very important. If they could make that connection, instead of complaining that politicians and elected officials, they do not address, they have to learn that they have so much force when they are able to hold people accountable, that they could elect someone and they could get that person out of office. And that is holding that person accountable.
Nydia Velasquez is in the Congress of the United States today because she dared to challenge herself.
Washington Heights in the Upper West Side of Manhattan is a community that has been plagued with negative publicity. But the media has been remiss in reporting about the multitude of good families that continue to live in this predominantly Spanish-speaking neighborhood. One such family is the Beauchamp family. Recently, one of the Beauchamp daughters made history when she was appointed by Governor Mario Cuomo to the Court of Appeals. She is Judge Carmen Ciparick, the first Puerto Rican woman ever to serve in the state court system, and now the highest-ranking Latina judge in the New York State Judiciary.
This court is now clearly the superior high court in the United States of America. That's something every New Yorker should be proud of. Carmen Ciparick fits perfectly the pattern of appointments we've made until now. Indeed, and in all seriousness, what qualifies her for this bench is her experience, her capacity for hard work, her capacity for collegiality, her ability to analyze and to articulate the way a good and great judge should be able to. The fact that she is a woman is of significance, but only after it is established that she deserves this position on the merits of her classical characteristics and credentials. I will say this about the judge. She has not been in the Court of Appeals before. She's not had the opportunity to sit here or in the appellate division. She has, however, been a judge for 15 years.
I, Carmen Ciparick, do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and the Constitution of the State of New York,
and that I will faithfully discharge
the
duties of the office of Associate Judge of the Court of Appeals according to the best of my ability. So help me God.
So help me God.
After graduating from George Washington High School, she attended Hunter College, and she earned her Juris Doctor degree from St. John's University School of Law.
To support my dream, I attended the evening division of St. John's and taught in a junior high school in central Harlem by day. The days were long, but very fulfilling. And to this day, I remain in touch with some of my students, whose lives hopefully I influenced in some small way and made better. I remained in the court system in various positions as a non-judicial employee for close to 10 years, and often wondered, while rendering bench assistance to judges, could I ever become a judge? Was a career in the judiciary within my realm of expectation? Why not? I pursued the process, and in 1978 was appointed by Mayor Koch to the Criminal Court of the City of New York, the first Puerto Rican woman on the bench in our state. I was making history, paving the road for others to come behind me. And in 1982, another historic event occurred. I was elected to our state Supreme Court from Manhattan. My dream had become a reality. My hard work had been rewarded.
Having been raised in a poor neighborhood, attending college at night while working during the day, and being a proud wife and mother, Judge Carmen Ciparick is indeed an exemplary Latina role model for the women of the 21st century.
Puerto Rican Americans started to emigrate to New York City from the island of Borinquen during the early 1900s. Many of them were unskilled, but all of them dreamed that one day their children would do well and make them proud. Several decades later, the dreams of one of those families began to blossom when a young lady known today as Judge Irma Vidal Santaella graduated from the Brooklyn School of Law with a Juris Doctor degree. She made the entire Puerto Rican and Hispanic community proud.
I have studied in Puerto Rico accounting, and then in the university I got a major in chemistry. But then I said to myself, well, if I want to be a lawyer, in addition to a licensed public accountant, I should have a better feeling for the political sciences, history, sociology. So I went back to Hunter College before I went to Brooklyn Law School. And there I started getting a better feeling what the social needs of my community at that time was. So I went to see my professor, and you see, he said to me, well, I know you have good grades. I know my fellow professors say you are very good in torts, you are very good in contracts, but I don't know, I don't think you are going to make it here. I said, why not? He said, well, if you cannot pass partnership, which is such a simple course, that means that you are not going to make it. And you know what? I'm going to give you a very good piece of advice. Where are you from? I said, I'm from Puerto Rico. He said, why don't you go back to Puerto Rico and study law there? You will never be a lawyer. Do you know what? I finished law school in 2 years and a half. I got a contracts 2A. I got partnership. I repeated it, A. I was not an honor student, but I was at the top third of my class. And I went to see him the next day after I had passed the bar exam. I was one of those who passed the bar the first time. So I went to see him. I said, Professor, he said, I know, I read your name this morning in the New York Times. And he looked at me because I was smiling. He said, you seem to be so happy. I said, no, only am I happy. I'm here because I owe you a great favor. So he looked at me like that. I said, you know, when you told me that I could never become a lawyer in New York City, you made me prove you wrong.
The New York-born jurist is a true pioneer in the state. As a Puerto Rican woman, she was the first to take the New York State Bar exam and be admitted, the first to run for the Congress of the United States, and the first to be elected from the Bronx County to the New York State Supreme Court.
When I opened my law office and I saw the response elicited from my community and the way that wanted so much to understand what is right, what is wrong. You know, a lot of, we receive so much negative publicity, we Hispanics as a whole, and Puerto Ricans in particular. But you know, basically, we are people with over 500 years of a cultural heritage, and the backbone of that cultural heritage is social order. Social order. We believe in a system of law. We believe in a system of order.
Judge Irma Vidal Santaella is proof evident that if you dedicate yourself to studying, to public service, and to upholding the law, you too can live a rewarding life.
When is 90% considered to be a bad mark? The answer is every time you run against New York State Senator Olga Mendez. Mendez is so popular in her Spanish Harlem and South Bronx districts that she consistently defeats her opponents by a 9-1 margin, an incredible popularity. In 1978, Olga Aran Mendez made national history when she became the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected to a state legislative post in the continental United States.
Well, I became aware that I could end up being a role model for Puerto Rican women and Hispanic women, not only in the state of New York, but also throughout the nation. And that is a very a great responsibility, as I see it. So I have made it certain that my own personal behavior, as well as my political behavior, is one that other women could feel proud of and would like to follow on. That is another way in which politicians, any politician, could help his or her own community.
Don't call me Hispanic, call me Puerto Rican, says Senator Olga Mendez to all of the policymakers who try to take the shortcut in referring to Americans of Spanish heritage.
It's very important for every Puerto Rican and Hispanic to clearly state with pride, I am Dominican, I am Cuban, I am from Salvador, with pride. And this is what I'm trying to achieve. So whenever anybody tells me that I'm Hispanic, I say, please, I don't go around this world diluting the identity of any other human being on earth. So don't dilute mine. I am Puerto Rican. I am very hopeful that before we reach the year 2010, at the time in which we will be the minority #1 in the country, that the coalition of all Spanish-speaking people will be consolidated. It is the most coalition in the whole world because we all share the same language, the same culture, the same value system, the same religion. Different political histories, but political histories, once we are in this great country of ours, they do not count.
Her fiery, deliberate, and proud Spanish accent is clearly heard in the state's legislative chamber when she effectively articulates sound policies for good government and for a just society.
From the poorest election districts in all of America comes a woman who has been a relentless and uncompromising fighter for the disenfranchised people of the South Bronx. On February 28, 1994, Assemblywoman Carmen Arroyo took her oath of office and made history. On that day, she became the first Puerto Rican woman ever to be elected to New York State Assembly.
This is a very interesting area. Being the poorest in the United States of America, there is a lot of potential, and there is a lot of people here that want to do something, that want to make a change. In the past 10 years, we are making some changes.
Although a newcomer to the state legislature, Assemblywoman Carmen Arroyo is already recognized as a champion for the rights of the elderly and for the youth of the Empire State. Carmen Arroyo was born and raised in Puerto Rico. Later in New York City, she earned her associate's degree at Hostos Community College and her bachelor's degree from the College of New Rochelle.
The 74 Assembly District is the poorest district in the state and in the nation. And it's poor because having set aside by statistics that have less people working, less people with higher education, and less people in the workforce. In order to make that change, we have to work collectively in our community. Our youngsters, those beautiful kids that we have, should be educated. They have to keep themselves in school. Our young mothers, the ones that already have children, have the opportunity to go back to school and become part of the workforce. We have a lot of experience with people, and myself is one of those persons that went to college at the age of 40. One of my goals as an assemblywoman is to bring into the South Bronx a nursing school that could combine the Lincoln Hospital and the Hostos College, and that program could be developed in a bilingual basis for Hispanic youngsters to learn a career in nursing and in health. The other thing that I want to see is more youngsters going into college, and I'm out there to help them. I want to see them out of the streets. I want to see more after-school programs, more programs for the teenagers, but also more programs for the younger ones, the ones that after 3 o'clock only watch television.
With extensive background in urban planning and with her newly found legislative powers, Arroyo hopes to mold today's youth into effective public leaders for the 21st century.
The power of the Puerto Rican and of the Hispanic vote has been demonstrated beyond the boundaries of the city of New York. In 1989, Nancy Padilla became the very first Puerto Rican woman to be elected to a city council seat outside of the boundaries of the city of New York. With a 52% population increase in the Latino community of Rochester, New York, since the 1980 census, Councilwoman Nancy Padilla was more than justified in her fight for a Latino district.
Throughout this whole debate, you've heard Hispanics want a district. And frankly, the issue for us was to have someone run in a district, because there's no such thing as a Hispanic district. Any district that any candidate runs in includes a population of Hispanic, Blacks, Anglos, and any other population that may be living in that area. Tom Fry approved the final compromise plan that the members of the county legislature voted on. And that plan includes some representatives that will represent the city of Rochester, districts made up of the city of Rochester, and other representatives that will represent what is called blended districts.
During her victory celebration as an at-large councilmatic representative of Rochester, New York, Padilla was notified that she had received more votes than the candidate who had just won as mayor of Rochester, New York. Padilla was born and educated in the public school system of the city of Rochester, New York. She earned her bachelor's degree at the Empire State College.
We have never claimed to be the majority. We were asking to have an opportunity to run a candidate for the county legislature. Now what will happen is if candidates decide to run, then obviously they have to run primaries against the officials who are there now.
Padilla has dedicated her life to empowering the Latino community of Rochester, New York. She has made such a strong and impactful difference in her community amongst the Latino people particularly, that they affectionately call her La Alcaldesa, Spanish for mayor.
For 25 years, Lucy Cruz has lived and worked in the same Bronx neighborhood. Her commitment to community service has led her to a distinguished career as a public servant. She has served on the community school board, as director for the local hospital, and as an aide to 2 New York City mayors. After years as a community leader who fought to correct neighborhood problems, Lucy Cruz of the Bronx decided to take her unwavering advocacy for good government directly to City Hall. This time, however, she would make history. The charter of the City of New York had been modified to provide for new and more representative councilmanic districts. The doors of government were now opened for a Hispanic to be elected to the Council of the City of New York. And on the 5th of November, 1991, Lucy Cruz made history by becoming the first Puerto Rican woman ever elected by the populace to the New York City Council.
I happen to have a lot of Mitchell-Lama as well as Rochester residents in my district. And when I hear that there are people that are opposed to explaining the whys and wheres of their income when these tenants that live in Mitchell-Lama and Parkchester have to, then I find that unequitable and certainly unfair. So in the interest of my first concern about the stabilization, that I have been assured, as many of my colleagues have been, that there is extended protection. And in the interest also that may I say to this council that I don't have a hell of a lot of people in my community making $250,000. The ones that do make it, I would dare say, make it quite questionably. I therefore vote yes.
Councilwoman Lucy Cruz has taught us that it is never too late for any citizen to get involved in government. Further, she teaches us that good government starts when a citizen registers to vote and begins to use the power of that vote.
We hope that you have enjoyed these mini biographies about our very special New York women of Hispanic heritage. This is Jose Angel Noriega
and Myriam Ayala asking you to stand tall,
to be proud and
to move forward.